This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 5 p.m., I'd like to call the Selectmen's meeting of January 26, 2023 to order. First order of business is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we have two things on our agenda tonight, both having to do with warrant articles. We're going to look over the collective bargaining agreement amendment and the Tilton Island Bridge warrant article. Should we start with warrant article number 3, which is the Tilton Island Bridge? On the document that Jeannie sent us, as we know, it's in red. Tim or Jeannie, what was the change to this from the last one we saw? Was there a change to it, or is this the same wording?
It's similar wording, and
Okay.
Jeannie, let me know would you prefer to speak to this or?
No, that's fine. I may be back and forth, so go ahead.
So so we reviewed this with the bond counsel and stressing that it needs to show that we're intending to apply for and hopefully be awarded the grant for the land and water conservation, but not to limit ourselves solely to that, so that it opens it up that we can use the state aid that the board just recently accepted, other grants and donations that might come up that between now and the time that we'd be looking to bond. So this is worded in such a way to make it as flexible as possible for the board to accept and move forward with the project.
Okay. Good. That clarifies it.
Just I have the old one if you want to read it. It's just a few words that are turned around here.
Right.
I'm good.
Okay.
No,
I think Tim said this was reviewed by bond counsel, who made sure that the language is correct.
Okay. Excellent. I'll make a motion that we accept Article 3 warrant article as worded.
Recommended.
Recommended.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
It's a lot of money.
Well, here's the question, and here's the question that, as we know that we have to make the sales pitch at town meeting. I think the question that we need to think about that might arise is, what would a replacement bridge cost, a new one? So if we might be able to have a rough estimate of that, then the question becomes, would the technically $500,000 that would be bonding be equivalent or less than, or et cetera, to what a new bridge replacement might be?
And also based on current rates, the 500,000 over a 10-year life of a note would be about 75,000 a year is what we'd be looking at. So that's roughly about, I'd say about 12 and a half, 13 cents per thousand on the tax rate. The other thing to keep in mind is because of the timing of this during the year, we wouldn't know about the land and water conservation grant until the October timeframe or the fall. And therefore, even if we bonded in 23, there wouldn't be any financial impact to 23. The first payments would be made in 24. So this is really seeking the approval for this in 23.
We don't have to spend $1 million.
No, but per the budget law of, raising and appropriating the total amount, we'd be bonding the 500,000 is the way this is planned. So, and with the balance of it coming from grants and donations. So even though we're raising and appropriating and we're offsetting with the 500,000 of grants and donations and other state aid.
Jeannie,
Yes.
man,
Yes, Joe.
is there a effort underway yet to like raise funds for the bridge? Sort of like they did in Meredith, where you have the, I don't know whether it was a thermometer or whatever it was you had, to show how far along the project has come.
So the first chunk we have now, from last meeting that you accepted was the 75,000 that will go towards that. And then, of course, the grant itself, my intent is to try to find as much grant funding as I can to go towards the 500,000 or more if we can get that, and then look at raising money through other efforts, whether it's donations from business people or smaller fundraisers, whatever it might be. But I think right now the focus is really trying to find out what the will of the people in the town of Tilton is going to be at town meeting. But I have started the process with the land and water conservation people, or the grant, and have been told that this is a very strong application, and they believe that we would likely be able to get that 500,000. So if we get 500,000, we've already got 75. Anything else we get will be that much less that you'll have to bond. But the way that the land and water conservation fund is set up, it's like you get paid as you go. So sort of like, and I know you all have been through this before because you did a land and water conservation grant for Riverfront Park. And Tim, you said that was 1.2 million for that?
Well, the project was, I believe, 1.1 with about another 500,000 in a total of 1.6. So 1.1 was, I think it was grants and donations. I'd have to go back and look exactly, but there was a healthy split, and there was a big fundraising effort at the time for that project.
So that it clarifies my next question. So we're not, by bonding, we're not precluded from going out and then raising funds to offset the 500,000
No.
that we take on. Okay.
No,
right.
that language is actually in the article.
It's in the article.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the article is written, like Tim said, in a way that gives us as much flexibility as possible, so that if we raise more than the 500,000, then that's that much less we have to bond.
Right.
Good. So, and we've already, Joe, no thermometer. We're going to do a bridge.
A bridge
painting across the green. We're going to fill
that
that in
might be
as
a
it goes.
great place for it.
That's what we will do. Even if I have to paint the bridge, which will then look like a
We'll get
child's
somebody.
bridge.
We'll get somebody. Art students out there.
Yeah, that's not me. So, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Motion passes. Move on to Article 5.
So this article, Jeannie and I spent time speaking with the attorney. We sought to pass it by DRA. DRA, Department of Revenue Administration, recommended that the attorney review it. And because of the structure of and use of some of the American Resource Recovery Plan money from before the ARPA money, the attorney felt very strongly and insisted that that in order to properly reflect the wages for the the union, that those monies needed to be incorporated in this so that it's clear and citizens are properly warned as to what that is, but also to show the split of what's coming from taxation and what would continue to be paid by ARPA funds. And as you can see, there was a slight reduction in the original amount due to one of the officers being on leave. So for the 23 fiscal year, that sum was reduced slightly, but you can see the breakdown for 23 and 24 here.
I have a question.
Mr. Jessamine.
What kind of precedent does this set that we are trying to renegotiate the contract? And I know this is the right thing to do, and I'm a yes. However, I've always been loath to go do anything except for what the contract states. We negotiate a contract. That's the way, well, it's not the way I want it necessarily, but it is what it is. How can I justify trying to go around the contract?
Well, I would say that this is really it's not going around the contract. It's legally augmenting the wage scale that is in the contract. So it's not changing the other language in it. But what it's doing is reflecting the fact that we had in such a tight law enforcement labor market, we were seeing attrition from our staff, and some of which was due to wages. And when those were looked at in total with other agencies, we were clearly underwater in terms of competitive wage. And furthermore, in looking at hiring people and bringing new people in to replace those positions, they were coming at wages that were already at a higher rate than people that had been here with either equal or more experience. So it really posed a real issue for, as an employer. So this isn't changing the contract itself. It is changing and addressing the wage scale in the contract that's attached to the contract. So I guess from that standpoint,
That was a good explanation of all the good reasons to do this. But what I'm saying is that if we try to change the contract now, does that open a door for future things to come up like this?
Well,
I just want to know.
I would say, Joe, that it's already done.
Right.
Unfortunately, so you can't go back from this because you've signed the amendment to the
Right.
contract. I think certainly
that's right.
we have enough information that we can provide to you going into town meeting to not explain, but really help people understand why you did what you did. I don't think personally that it sets a precedent. I think where we find ourselves right now is certainly not even not at the top of the scale in terms of what other communities are paying. We're probably middle to low, would you say,
Yeah.
Tim?
Yes.
And
Well,
we're not
certainly more competitive than we were, right?
offering the sign-on bonuses that other communities are offering. We're trying to be just competitive to keep the people that we have and to attract new officers. So I don't think it sets a precedent. That was your basic question. I don't think that it
That
does.
was the basic question, and so I'm good. And as
I
far
think
as all the rest of that, I'm glad that it was said, so that it's on the tape and what have you, so that people can understand. And I will add my voice at town meeting for all the reasons that this is a good idea.
I
I'm
think
gonna
this
go-
board saw the problem and made an adjustment to account for it.
Selectman Constantino, you had something?
I was just going to add what Jeannie just said, very well said, was it wasn't, and Tim, it doesn't set a precedent. We opened it and we closed it at the same time, and we only opened a certain excerpt from the contract. We didn't open the entire contract, and it was very specific. We signed off of it, they voted on it, and so on. It's closed. In order to do that, we have to go through a full-fledged negotiation again, so it's closed. So Jeannie said it very well, and Tim said it very well. It doesn't set a precedent.
We do have a citizen with us tonight who has raised his hand, would like to ask a question. We'll ask you actually to step up to Mr. Pearson's mic, or the mic Mr. Pearson is using.
State
So,
your name and address.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nathan Langione, and my address is 8 Winter Street, Apartment 1. And so I was just looking to get a quick overview. So essentially, there's a union contract for the police department. There was a change made to the pay scale to increase the pay and benefits for police officers in order to, attract more talent to Tilton. And then this was something that the union put to a vote, the union accepted, and so this is kind of just boilerplate in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's so we can define it's pay only. So
Right.
because the other benefits are outlined in the thing, and I think you encapsulated it very well, that we saw the holes in where we were with our pay scale, especially with our patrol officers as compared to other municipalities. And Mr. Pearson said it very, very well, that the competition that's been out there, especially the last 9 to 10 months, has been significant, with other municipalities offering sign-on bonuses as high as $10,000. So we knew that to be competitive and to retain the people that we had, we need to take a look at renegotiating the pay portion of our collective bargaining agreement with the union.
Understood. And then
Selectman Constantine.
Nathan, generally, our contracts are 3 years. And so we were in our second year of the third year, and that's when we renegotiated. That's why it's called renegotiated the wage schedule, because we were in between that time where we needed to do it.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense. It's a
Right.
typical, atypical off-cycle adjustment, but
Yes.
given the market conditions and the fact that not a lot of law enforcement officers available at the moment, and if we're losing them, we need to replace them. So I think
Right.
it'd be hard to find people who don't support making sure that we're at least compensating appropriately, especially for longtime members of the department who have people coming in making more money than them. Thank you.
Knock on wood.
Thank you.
Did we make a motion?
Make a motion that we recommend Article 5.
Second. Motion and a second. Discussion.
I would say to this gentleman's statement that it's not just about replacing police officers. It's about having enough police officers to do the job. There's just big holes in the schedule, and police officer is a very stressful situation, especially if you're doing it 55 and 60 hours a week. It takes a toll. So finding qualified people, we hire people, we train people, and then we lose people to other municipalities because they pay several dollars more per hour. Therein lies our dilemma.
Any more discussion from the board? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do we need to look at Article 7 just to approve with the red in it?
Yes, that's
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the loaded question. Is there going to be a shift in that number again?
Yes, so I would, so this is the number that is in the budget printed for the public hearing, and this reflects the Budget Committee's approved budget, including the sewer, so $6,275,979. It differs from the Selectmen's approved budget by $34,174, and that's largely because the Budget Committee did not take up the discussion of janitorial services until the public hearing, and then also there was a difference in the visiting nurses line between the Board of Selectmen and Budget Committee. So I think it's entirely, while not guaranteed, I think it will be discussed at the public hearing for those janitorial services. And I would think it's entirely possible that will change at the public hearing, but that is the current number, $6,275,979.
Tim, can you just give us the difference again between, please?
Sure, it's $34,172. And I had sent out an email to the board enumerating those differences.
Yeah.
And so you should have that in your email, along with a link to the public hearing document. They're also down on the counter at the town clerk tax collector's office.
Mr. Jessamine.
I don't take any issue with the article itself, but I will point out that there's lots of other articles behind that, and after we vote, historically, after we vote on the town budget and they hear about the town budget, a lot of people leave. And the longer it goes on, at the end, sometimes we've had very few people voting on thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And I was thinking if we put this one, dare I say it, at the end, people will stay or they'll come later or whatever, but they'll hear about all this other stuff, which I think, quite frankly, is a good idea. Some won't like it that they have to sit around, but I think it's a good idea to participate.
We've done that in the past, haven't we?
I was surprised that it was up so close.
I think,
The only issue would be is that if you put it way at the end, that would have to get amended a couple times to.
Right. Well, the bond article will have to be open for an hour anyway, but I think, Jeannie, were you going to discuss where DRA,
Yeah,
their suggestion on placement?
yeah, DRA always recommends strongly that the way that we have it ordered is the way that they recommended it be ordered, just to get the general operations out in front.
And part of the reason for that is there's a 10% rule, so in the budget law that it's possible that amendments to the operating budget could cause that to kick in. It's unlikely. There are a lot of things that are excluded from that. Union agreement costs are excluded from that. Debt costs are excluded from that. So it's we always have to have a worksheet done for town meeting that shows when that would kick in. And that's something I just got to keep track of during the meeting. But that's another reason why they like to have it up front.
And I can, Joe, I can certainly share that information with you. We get a packet from DRA that talks about suggested warrant articles. It's where we get our language, the guidance from DRA, and the issue of the 10% rule and why they like to have the general operations up front.
That's just a guide though, right?
Yep.
So if we kept track of the warrant articles, I understand what DRA is trying to do, but we have a stellar finance director, and I don't think every town has what we have. But if we kept track of it, we'd still be able to do it sort of kind of at the end.
I wouldn't recommend it, but
Right, and also warrant articles can be motioned to be moved at the meeting as well, to the moderator.
I don't see that happening. I could go either way.
I'll pass.
Yeah, I'll pass.
Residents' participation in the process is their business, not mine.
Understood. Good.
Make a motion, we accept Article 7 as written.
Chessman, second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing
Could say recommend instead of accept, I'm sorry.
noted. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That's it for red, I believe.
Jeannie,
Yeah,
was there
the
anything?
yeah. The
Veteran.
only other thing I wanted to mention was we did, at our last meeting, there was a little bit of a discussion about the warrant article having to do with the all veterans tax credit. And I did add some more language to further explain that for the voters. I then ran that past John Radigan, and in the course of the conversation back and forth today, he concluded that we needed a second warrant article. So you have one for the all veterans tax credit and one for the optional tax credit, which is what you already have. So you haven't changed anything. You've just expanded per the law that was changed and expanded, and it explains it in both those articles. It's essentially opens it up to veterans who are currently serving.
Do we have any way of calculating what that impact would be before town meeting?
No, I believe that question was asked before.
Yep.
And I did talk to Lauren about that today, and she said that she says it really should be made clear that this is a housekeeping type of correction and will have no additional tax dollar impact than what already existed. And I sent her an email back and said, but is that really true? If we're expanding to veterans who are currently serving, won't that have an impact? Right now, it's just those who are honorably discharged. And she said the readoption changes nothing, but there's always could be additional applicants, but unlikely, as veterans serve tours and receive discharge papers after each tour. It's going to be difficult to administer, and they're still unsure how a veteran serving could apply and provide documentation. So that was her response.
Wow, okay.
We had the same thing come up in Meredith, same question, Pat, and
Yeah.
basically the same response.
I got a feeling it's going to come up at town meeting and we're not going to be able to answer it. And I don't want this to fail based on not having appropriate answers. So having Lauren's answer would probably be, be prepared for that.
Yeah, and all it would mean, if it failed, would be those, not, I should say all it would mean, because certainly we don't want it to fail, but the people who are getting the tax credit now will still get that. It will just would not be opened up to the people who are serving. But I'll try to get a better response as we get closer to town meeting, so that you all can respond to that.
Is there like administrative active duty list that we can check with the Veterans Administration to see who in Tilton are actively serving? Or is that way out of stretch here?
I have no idea. I could ask the question. I don't know.
Well, if they apply, then their eligibility will have to be determined, and that information undoubtedly will be checked. Because otherwise, I mean, that's a big requirement. Yeah, I'm applying for a veterans credit. I'm in the Marine Corps. But are you really in the Marine Corps? It seems like that they would check on that.
Well, I'm just thinking of who in Tilton are actively serving right now. And I
Don't know
think
right
somewhere
offhand.
would know that. I remember, I'm just trying to think back when Jim Lambert was doing the window, when it was Paulie's. He went to the Veterans Administration to get names and numbers and so on and so forth. They had names of deceased, names that were actively serving, names that were deployed, but deployed in the United States, not in a war zone, things like that. And I was just thinking if maybe this, I mean, I know it's a stretch, but maybe we might not need it. I just don't want to see it fail for that reason, that we don't have answers.
You'd also have to know which, or property owners, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's a good point. I mean, we do. Then we have to check to see which ones actually own the property. Could be a son or a daughter or, right. Yeah, maybe it's way too much.
Anything else from the board?
Need to recommend and not recommend.
What, for veterans?
No, it was already done.
We already did that before.
Yeah, we approved it the last time.
No, it's been changed.
Yeah, Jeannie,
It's changed now
don't
because
they
we
have
have
to
two
approve the
now.
last?
Yes,
the new one?
because we added one more article.
Right.
I think
We
it's
have two
15.
now instead of
Yeah.
one.
Gotcha.
Right.
So is it Article 15, Jeannie?
Yes.
I
Right.
would, to Pat's point, I would actually, because I did change the language in Article 14, just revote on that and on 15.
Article 14 and 15, just do them both together.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept, to recommend Article 14 of Article 14.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 15.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Forrester.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you, being on the other side of this, the audio and the visual is excellent. So for all your residents who are now watching this online, it's amazing, the clarity, both in sound and the visual. So good job, Tim.
Wonderful.
Great.
I was going to comment, actually, the call-in audio
Yeah.
is fantastic. This is
Yeah.
Much improved.
it's night and day.
Yeah, it is.
So,
Yeah.
so
Thank
even
you,
though
Tim.
even though Tim was trying to mute you a few times, Jeannie.
I know that. Well, I think he was successful in getting me blocked from the camera.
So, he did that the last time. So
I know.
he's figured out that angle so that he stays out of
That's right.
the majority of the picture there.
Yeah.
So,
Blames it on a cord.
is there anything else from the board? Mr. Jessamine?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
That's it.
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Have a nice evening.